What's up, fam? Welcome to Birds of a Feather live from the Real Talk Studios. Live on a2dradio.com. We're on Instagram, Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube. Our first half sponsors, Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants, make them yours. GibsonMayer.com. Tax season's coming, guys. Time to get on it. And also buy Specialized Physical Therapy. You can find them in Burlington, Princeton, and Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and find them on the web, SpecializedPhysicalTherapy.com. Scanzano Sports poll question this week. What was the most infuriating part of the Eagles' loss? Opening kickoff fumble not overturned, offense's slow start, late touchdowns to Amari Cooper, or just everything in general. So, we're looking forward to talking to the fam. We're going to get right into it.
Okay.
Guys, what infuriated you? We'll start off with Chuck's here. Chuck's Chrome, Ryan Broder on the ones and twos. Tough loss this week, guys. What pissed you off the most?
Everything.
Everything. Well, I mean, I knew that one was coming.
Yeah, everything. I mean, it's hard to narrow it down. The opening kickoff, infuriating because I'm not making excuses. I don't blame the refs, like, when it comes to football games. I really don't. But that's a totally different football game if they get that call right. If New York gets their heads out of their asses and actually make the right call and overturn it, that's a completely different football game. I'm not even going to say that we definitely would have won. I'm just saying it's a different football game with the offense getting at least 3 points and the team gaining that opening momentum. Completely different.
Little extra confidence behind you, yeah.
Exactly. Instead, you get the offense's slow start. Like, you get shut out in the first half. And then the late touchdowns to Amari, which, we were talking about a pre-show. Like, the defense played great for most of the game. Like, it's hard to really point the finger at them, but the maddening part is Schwartz, again, with his lack of personnel awareness, deciding to put a banged-up Sidney Jones one-on-one with no safety help against Amari Cooper. And then on the next possession, he puts Bosby, press bail, with no safety help and cover 3 against Amari, and then he gets burned for a long touchdown. Like, that's inexcusable. But then there are, like, a lot of other things that are just very frustrating. A lot of the same old stuff, a lot of new stuff. And it's just, like, everything. Like, this was the game of the year for the Eagles. If they wanted to salvage any type of season, they had to win this game. But they didn't. And so it's hard to just point out one thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. There's a lot to be frustrated. I agree. And you're saying that, not that we necessarily would have won, but it's a very different game. Sports, in every sport, is a game of momentum. When you talk about emotion and being out there in a mind frame and whatnot, it's a game of momentum, and that would have totally swung things a different way to start the game. And again, that's not saying we would have won, but it definitely would have changed the outset of how that game kicked off. I agree with you, and we were saying beforehand, I think Ryan said, where was LeBlanc? And
in the slot.
He's in the slot, which, to me, I'm just confused because we talked about preseason, and I even made the joke about Bosby might make the team as the slot receiver or slot cornerback, which I knew wasn't going to happen. But they talked about how this guy in preseason and OTAs and whatnot was looking so good or looking pretty good in the slot. And now this is the opportunity where you got to figure out where you're going to put your personnel at. And I don't understand why he's covering Amari Cooper on the outside. And listen, I'm not saying LeBlanc would be a savior or maybe wouldn't have done any better. But for everything for the feelers that were put out there about this guy and where he looked like he was the best fit coming into the season, it just makes sense to me that he should be your guy who's in the slot there and then see what you can do with LeBlanc on the outside. Sidney got exposed in this game. Sidney had a terrible game.
He's hurt.
He's playing hurt, and it showed.
It shows.
Did not look
He's
very
got no
good.
speed at all.
Yeah, I mean it was a tough game to watch, and I have to say Rasul didn't have a banner day, but
I thought Rasul played very well.
Well, it didn't start off that way. I thought in the first half of the game, I thought he struggled. Second half, he was much better, and he made a good play on the ball in overtime.
That's a good play on the ball. It's just unlucky bounce.
It was like,
it's
but that's like
that's how it.
it's
yeah.
It's like, as much as everything seemed to go right last year, that's just one of those things where you're like, it's almost like, of course,
that
it went
happens.
right into Amari's hands, right in front of the end zone for him to just grab the loose ball or the popped up ball and just step into the end
And
zone.
it makes Dak actually look good, even though if you actually watch the play, that's a horrible throw by
Wasn't
Dak.
a good throw. No, it was,
Horrible decision, horrible throw, and still somehow it becomes a touchdown.
Yeah.
And so everyone's going to read it as Dak threw 3 touchdowns.
It's one of those plays that just, you kind of sit there and you say, of course.
Yeah. Here's another thing. Like, I don't know if we've talked about this recently, but it's also infuriating that among the things that has made me mad about Schwartz, this is another thing is that he doesn't have his corners shadow wide receivers. And I get it. When you have Jalen Mills and Ronald Darby and they're both good, okay, just let them play their side of the field. But when your secondary is banged up as it is, and your second year player Sidney Jones is banged up, and you have to take him out of the game, and your only real corner that's been playing well all game is Rasul Douglas, but you're not gonna have him shadow the one wide receiver threat on the Cowboys and Amari. Why wouldn't the Cowboys just say, okay, we're gonna put Amari away from Rasul and just expose the guy that was just off the practice squad? Like, why wouldn't they do that? That just makes you make it too easy for offenses to target your defense.
It's just so crazy. There was no safety help over the top. Oh, it drove me nuts.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. It was just a weird second half or fourth quarter, really.
Yeah.
And overtime. I thought after the first half, I thought, all right, Schwartz is calling a pretty decent game here.
Yes.
It looked like, okay, maybe we're starting to figure some things out, and then, in typical fashion that I feel like we've seen a lot this year, they faltered down in the fourth quarter. They gave us, 3 quarters of a good game, and then the fourth quarter was a different team defensively. Offensively, they played pretty well, but I didn't get it. I didn't understand why there was no safety help over the top. I didn't understand why Bosby was in that position to begin with. I thought Michael Bennett had another really good game. I thought Fletcher showed up, particularly in the second half. I thought he played very well. They were getting some pressure on Dak, which was creating those, forced throws like you saw in that overtime. Just didn't pan out. And it's all about, if teams are going to make mistakes, your job as the other team to capitalize. And I'll tip the hat to the Cowboys that they capitalized on all of our mistakes.
They did.
You can't. There's no excuses about it. In the end, they deserved to win that game.
They were the better team.
They were the better team for sure.
That defense is legit. That defense is absolutely legit. And any Eagles fans, honestly, like I'm still hearing like Eagles fans here and there. Oh, I don't believe in them. They're garbage. Blah blah. Like, stop. Come on. The Dallas defense. I don't care what you say about their offense because I'm still not sold on their offense, outside of Zeke and Amari. So I get that part of it, but their defense, you can't deny that their defense is legit. You can't. Like, they're good. That is a very, very, very good defense. So you just admit it. It is.
Over on the Facebook, Tom Arnone says, "What's up, boys? What's up, Tom?" Joshua Michael says, "What's up, guys? What's up, Joshua?" John Abell says, "Yizzo, what's up, John?" John also said, "Who picks tails instead of heads, Carson?" I kind of agree. John Skeel said Lane Johnson picked tails. So whoever picked it, what the hell are you doing now? Joshua Michael also said, "Bring back Flip." So we're gonna talk about that later on. We're not gonna get right into that, but we have some strong points on that, or strong opinions on that we'll get into that as well.
Yes, we do.
Anything over on the YouTube? YouTube's flying
yeah,
already.
Well, YouTube's always. I can always count on my YouTube guys. What's up, guys? Cheering me up. I'm miserable, but I guess we all are.
Tough, man.
Yep. Eagles crazy was the first comment. He says John DeFilippo now. Foolish Demon says yo. Khalid says I'm just waiting for this season to end. Everyone heal up and get ready for 2019. Foolish Demon says nothing really infuriated me. I almost expect this shit this year. Todd Womack says Philly Dilly.
What's up,
What's
Todd?
up? We got screwed, but we put ourselves in the position. And then baseball talk. Pootie Tang says our biggest problem going forward is drafting. Dallas is hitting on their picks, and we aren't, which is an interesting point. Harlem Cowboy says, "What's up, guys? That was a great game. Birds defense came to play."
What's up, Harlem?
Harlem, I will say,
I'll give it to you,
tip
man.
of the hat.
Congrats, man. You
All right,
guys deserve
congrats.
that win, man.
You're not gonna hear any deflecting or any excuses from us. That you guys deserve to win that game,
Nice.
hands down. Rosca says, "What's up, boys? I'm ready to see.
What's up, Rosca?
I'm ready to see Rams beat the Eagles this Sunday night, 13-1." Foolish Demon says Cowboys defense is for real, 12-2. And then he talks to Rosca about you guys lost to Chicago. Step your facts up. Harlem Cowboy does also say most infuriating was Dak trying his best to give you guys the game. Well, at least he's honest about that, But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is funny. And do we want to get into deflip now, or do we want to wait on that a little bit?
I mean, I don't know if you have any more reaction to the Eagles Cowboys game. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I have a lot to say, but I mean, everything has been already talked about for 2 days, and it's.
Well, Frank says fix the coordinator. Schwartz is hanging on a thread, but Gross' seat is on fire. And I agree. That's what we actually talked about. If there's one guy, I think Schwartz still has a chance to hang on. Gross got to go.
Yeah,
he's got to go.
Yeah.
And
I don't disagree.
And John Abell says would be nice to see the Eagles destroy the Rams. I'm not counting on it. It would be fun. I'm going to the game in LA. I leave on Friday morning, so it'll be fun to have that and not a destruction. I'll say this for fantasy football wise: if we're gonna lose, I'd rather see us get destroyed because I got 3 Rams going this week. But I will always sacrifice a chance to make the playoffs for my team for a fantasy football win. So, knock on wood though. Maybe I can get both.
I agree. I mean, Schwartz could hang on the excuse that a lot of his secondary was injured.
There's reasoning that he didn't have the right personnel, and some of that can fall on Howie for not equipping him with the right personnel. I'm not saying I want that to happen, but there's more of an argument for him than there is for Grow.
Yeah.
I agree with you, and I see it a lot more the more we talk about it week by week. There's no creativity there whatsoever. And you're running an RPO offense that suits your backup quarterback with your starting quarterback. And I just Carson to me looks out of place. The offensive line has been a huge disappointment for the most part this season, which is not giving him time to be able to extend plays and do what. And you can see that there's some hesitation with Carson with the knee. I think right away we kind of thought, oh man, there's no hesitation there. But as the season's going on, you can kind of see
it.
He's not extending plays like
mental.
he normally does. And I think he'll overcome that. I think once you get through this season, and we've talked about it before, a lot of guys, when you come off of that kind of injury, it does take a full year to kind of not just get yourself physically right, but mentally right. So,
yeah,
that's not an excuse. That's not an excuse whatsoever. And I think that also can fall onto the game planning. There's a lot of blame to go around. But to me, Gro's got to go. I don't think that DeFilippo is the solution for offensive coordinator.
Yeah, correct.
So
not for offensive coordinator.
I'll dive into it now. Yeah. This is my opinion. Absolutely, I think there's a place to bring this guy back. But to me, it says a lot when a team it's a first-year coordinator with all those weapons, and immediately they're just kind of like, yeah, no, he doesn't even get through the first full season. I'm not saying he can't be, but to me, I guess he wasn't ready for that kind of a role. Nobody's going to offer him a coordinator job next season. I'd be absolutely shocked if he gets a coordinator job. So you can bring him back in any capacity. You can give him more than a quarterback coach. You can find another role that's even more enhanced than that to give him an incentive to come back. But I feel like everybody's saying bring him back, make him the offense coordinator, yada 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 yada. I feel like we fall in love now that we've won the Super Bowl. We're falling in love with these guys, and we're trying to recatch that magic. And it's not necessarily going to happen. I think that DeFilippo and we were talking about this in our group. I always believe in any sport, baseball, basketball, hockey, whatever it is. When a guy loses his job, I don't usually like a guy to go immediately right back into another job. I feel like you need to have some time, a year, whatever it is, to decompress, especially a young guy like himself, first time in the job. He needs to sit back and he needs to figure out what went right, what didn't go right, and what do I need to do so that if I'm ever in that position again, what can I do better to do a better job? Um, and when I'm looking at the Eagles and I'm talking coordinator, I don't know who I would necessarily want, and that could be something we'll talk about if that comes to fruition that Groh is gone. But I would rather see an experienced coordinator come in here because, again, I feel like Doug is still learning how to head coach. I know we won a Super Bowl last year, but he had veteran coaches around him, and a lot of things changed this year, and it's very clear to me that Doug is still on a learning curve right now. So I feel like it benefits Doug for his development as the head coach as well to have more experienced guys. They need to sit back this offseason, and they need to figure out what their identity is going to be on offense, what kind of offense they're going to try to run, and then they need to identify a candidate. Now, I think Tom had asked us earlier, well, what if Doug wants DeFilippo? If Howie and Doug come to the conclusion that he's the best candidate for the job,
Sure.
I don't love it,
Whatever.
but listen, I mean, I'm not going to say whatever. I don't love it. I don't think it's the right call, but I'm always more than happy to be wrong. Then you go and you give him you give him that offensive coordinator position. Me personally, I want to see them go outside of the organization, identify who they want to be, and bring a guy in to fit that mold.
Yeah, we agree on a lot of this stuff. Like from my point of view,
And I do believe that Flip will get another opportunity down the road.
and I think he can.
But he needs to regroup somewhere in another role. And
Yeah, here's the thing. I think DeFilippo he has that moxie and that personality of a head coach. So from that end, I feel like he's a good leader. He shows good leadership skills, everything like that. So he will get another chance at a coordinator job. I just don't think he's ready. And I watching the Vikings, when you have the best wide receiver duo in the league, in my opinion, in Thielen and Diggs, you have Dalvin Cook, and you have Kyle Rudolph, and then you have an improvement at quarterback over Case Keenum, in Kirk Cousins, but your offensive numbers are worse. Your offense is worse than it was last year. That's on the offensive coordinator. That's on the guy who's calling the plays and whose system it is. And watching Minnesota, there's no rhyme or reason in their play calling. There's no flow. There's no, you don't know what they're doing. They have no identity. And, their play designs are vanilla. I always talk about it. These vanilla coaches or offensive coordinators in the league, like DeFilippo.
we got one of them.
We got one of them, Grow, like a Mike McCarthy. Their offense is vanilla. There's no creativity yet whatsoever. So, DeFilippo as an offensive coordinator to me does not make any sense. It just doesn't.
Right now.
Right now. Yeah, right now. Can he get better? Yes, and I sure hope he does. Do I want him on the Eagles as quarterbacks coach or some other position other than offensive coordinator? Yeah, definitely. He's got rapport here. He's got relationships here. He would be great. I just slow your roll on the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, see, I don't believe that rapport is definitely a factor, but I don't believe that that's anything that pushes anything over the top.
Yeah.
And I know that I've heard a lot of he's got a rapport with Carson and this. Oh, that's fine. You still got to have the right personnel in place, and you have to have the right game plan in place with who you have.
Yeah.
And, I just think that the guy would absolutely, I would love to see them bring him back, but I don't think you need to worry about, if we want to bring him back that bad, we have to give him the offensive coordinator position because somebody else is going to give it to him. Because I don't believe that that's going to happen at all. John Skeel says, the Flip was fired for a reason. Why do we think he's going to magically solve problems? I just don't get it. I think it's a lot of the love that we fell in love with for all these people who were part of that Super Bowl run. And I think that's one of the main things. And we're looking for answers, to be honest. We're just looking for answers. And then Joshua Michael says the Achilles all year was injuries. Carson isn't fully healthy. I'm hoping for us to finish strong, looking forward to next season. John Abell also said Carson came back too soon and not enough practice. And that's arguable. Maybe he did.
So
physically, I don't think he came back too soon, but maybe he just wasn't.
I don't think
there.
I don't think it's a case where Wentz isn't fully healthy. I think it's the mental issue. And this is where, like, everyone's been speculating over the past few weeks. I've maintained my same argument from day one, is that I really believe his knee is healed.
I do.
But with ACL injuries, the biggest hurdle is mental. Like, these players, they have to have that confidence in their knee to plant on it without hesitation. And I think in the beginning, when he first came back, we saw no hesitation, just like you said. But then now we're starting to see, as like the season wears on, he's hesitant with it. So that's where I think you have an argument. I think he's healthy. I think he's fine. It's just mentally where the issue is. And we going on YouTube, some of the YouTube comments, Foolish Demon does say, I hope we draft one or two guys PFF puts on their best young players list. I don't follow PFF grades. I looked at their draft rankings, their big board from this past draft, and I will say that I disagreed with a lot of it. So Foolish Demon, I will say that PFF isn't really one that I'd follow in terms of player grades like that. Harlem Cowboy says, Philly's problem to me is Wentz keys on the tight end way too much. I addressed this on Facebook earlier, and I'll say it again. Does he target Wentz a little bit too much? Are there times when does Wentz target Ertz too much? And are there times when Ertz is covered and then he tries to force it? Yes, definitely. But I don't think it's just I don't think it's that simple where you just say, oh, he's targeting him too much. You have to realize that, one, he's the only one getting open. Like, Ertz is literally the only receiver consistently getting open because he's that good. And two, the other guys, the wide receivers, they're not getting open. Either because they're not executing and they're not getting separation, or the play design just is bad, and the play calls are just bad, and it doesn't do them any favors or doesn't help them create any space for the wide receivers to get open. So if Carson is looking for whoever's open, he's going to look for Ertz. If no one else is getting open, who is he going to throw to? If Ertz is the only one consistently making plays. So, I mean, like, I'm not trying to bash the other wide receivers because it's not just them. It's the play design too. You're asking Wentz to do so much with this offense because there's no creativity. You're asking him to do everything to make all these difficult throws. And then when he can't make these difficult throws, you're going to criticize him. Like, there's more to it than just saying, oh, he targets Ertz too much.
What do you got, Ryan?
Sweeps.
Sweepsy.
Hey,
Uncle Sweeps.
So, Sweeps chimes in a couple things to go over. He says, what's up, studs? I'll keep it brief for now, but Schwartz has to go. Dude's an absolute clown. I don't care if you have a full team or a team full of JV players or not. Common sense tells you to never leave Cooper on one-on-one
Agree.
Yep.
with anyone,
Agree.
Yep.
let alone an injured Sidney Jones.
Yep.
And the fact that he never changes anything,
Yep.
never disguises anything.
Yep.
No thinking outside the box.
Yep.
Just a ho-hum missionary position wide 9.
Yep.
Make an adjustment one time with your personnel.
Yep.
You dealt with Howie or because of injury. And then he goes on to say, even though Dak gave the Birds the first 9 points on a silver platter to tie it, after the defense could never get off the field, after that, the defense could never get off the field. 11, and they said 11 kept answering and trading jabs. The defense continued to fail again. And that's all from Sweeps for now.
It's a fair point. I don't disagree with anything
yeah.
you
Sweeps
said
is
there,
fired up.
Sweeps.
Yeah.
Sweeps is fired up.
We want Schwartz gone, just to make that clear. We're just saying we can see a scenario where they do bring him back.
No, if they keep
Yeah.
one, I think he's the
Yeah.
one that they keep.
Yeah.
Crooked Letter says, he says, John's better than Mike for offensive coordinator. Who knows Carson? He knows Carson and was the quarterback, so the quarterback coach. So, yes, pick him up and dump Groh. He does know Carson. I still don't think that translates to he's ready for the offensive coordinator position.
I don't see how that does anything with the offensive
Listen, there's a
coordinator.
lot of things around the league on a lot of teams where quarterbacks have worked with offensive coordinators before and this and that, and doesn't translate all the time.
Mhm.
It doesn't translate to success. I think he would be an asset to come back, but I don't, and especially now, if there is an issue with Carson and confidence, whether it's with the knee and whatnot. I do think he would be a benefit to bring back in and kind of get back with Carson. But I still don't think that means anything because in the end, Chuck said it perfectly. Both are very vanilla. There's a lot of common ground between both offensive coordinators right now. So I think that he needs to regroup before he gets another opportunity. John Skeel says, could the cause of injuries be from a longer season last year?
Yeah, 100%. It's not the only factor, but it is a factor. I said it weeks ago. It's a consequence of playing a longer season. We played until the Super Bowl. That delayed a lot of surgery that these players had, which had a ripple effect. Less time in the offseason to recuperate. Again, it's not the main factor, but it is a factor. It's one of the.
If I'm looking at guys that it might have affected,
Alshon.
I'm thinking Alshon is definitely number one.
Brandon Graham
is probably one. I would say Jay would probably be up in there.
Yep. So those are 3 key starters.
Outside of those guys, I don't know that it was a huge effect on anybody else. Those guys, I could see it definitely being an issue with. He says, do you guys have heat in the room? We do. I'm just sitting in my coat because I don't feel like sitting in my dress shirt.
We have
some heat.
Over there. Sweeps also says, he says, and yes, Flip was a disgrace in Minnesota. No excuses, no screens, no adjustments, no plays. Designed to get the ball out quick out of Kirk's hands because their O-line flat out sucked.
Yeah.
No, it's true. It's true.
And he's not, again, I want to preface it also by saying Flip is not the only reason why the Vikings were bad.
No, he's not.
They're not the only reason, so I'm not putting all the blame on him. Bad O-line. Kirk Cousins hasn't played as well as his contract has stated. So,
and listen, much like Mike Groh's not the only reason that the Eagles are playing bad, but it doesn't mean that he deserves to keep his role.
Yep.
And Sweeps is absolutely right. So knowing that all those flaws were in his coaching, that's the guy we want to bring in and put him immediately as our offensive coordinator to start next year. Sorry, guys, I'm not sold on it yet.
Yeah.
John Skeel says Patrick Robinson. I think he's saying that the loss of that hurt this team. There's an argument for that as well. Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. On YouTube, Harlem Cowboy and Foolish Demon are into a little bit of a debate here.
Okay. What's the debate? Let's hear it.
Harlem says, can you guys just admit Wentz needs a running game just like Dak and a lot of other QBs?
Every quarterback needs a running game.
Every quarterback needs a running game. And
sure.
And
we say
Harlem
that all
Cowboy,
the time.
He said that he brought up this question last week, and I didn't get to it, but he was like, what's the difference? Because we keep killing Dak, saying, oh, he needs Zeke to be good, and then why is not the same now for Wentz? And what's different? Why is it one way or the other? And here's the difference: when we talk about a quarterback needing a running game, you're talking about for a whole team to be successful, you need a running game. A quarterback needs a running game on the team aspect. So if you want to look at it in an economics perspective, I'm talking about macroeconomically. The whole team needs
big words.
Yes, whole team needs. Sorry, I'm a finance degree. It's one of the only finance major. That's one of the only things I know. So like on the big picture, the whole team needs a running game. But if you're looking just at the QB, you can tell a QB is good or not with or without a running back. You could tell Dak is just not as good as Wentz. That's the difference. Like, in order for the Cowboys to be good, Zeke needs to be there. But regardless if Zeke is there, Dak just isn't on the same level as Wentz.
And listen, you can make the argument that last year Dak was terrible, even when Zeke came back after his suspension.
And with no running game right now, Wentz is still is on pace to put up, 20? He's on pace for 29 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, something like that, and a 100-something quarterback rating. I'm not fully into numbers. That's just one of the things they're saying. Like, Wentz without a running game is still good.
Reuben Frank put out a tweet, which I agree with. He said, yeah, Carson's been tentative and struggled early. He's not fluid moving around. But he's still got 21 TDs, 7 INTs, 70% accuracy, and the 7th best passer rating in the NFL at 102.2. Less than a year after ACL surgery. If you've given up on him, you're absolutely crazy. I mean, that kind of just says it all right there.
And then Harlem sets him up for foolishness again, He's saying that this is not the time to get into that Dak Wentz debate after Dak put up 455 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble, and another overtime win against your Birds. Well, who was Dak facing on defense? A bunch of scrubs and practice squad people in the secondary. Who was Wentz facing? Oh, yeah, your legit defense that you just said was legit and really good, and we just admitted, where you have a secondary that's amazing, a pass rush that's really good, linebackers that are as fast as anyone in the league. So you trying to prove a point there doesn't really hold water. Yeah, so.
Kyle Kramer said one of those nice Amish fireplaces would look good in there.
Yes, I could feel it now.
No, but yeah, no, it's not even a debate. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much else to say. I mean,
tough game.
I'm sorry. Harlem Cowboy then goes on to say, he says, and we were still 9-7 last year, 1 game from the playoffs, and you say that like we should congratulate you. So 9-7, you're going to bring up a 9-7 record and missing the playoffs to prove your argument?
Listen, I'll tell you what. If we miss the playoffs and you're in with us next year, Harlem, I'm not going to be bringing up that we went 7-9 or 8-8 or 9-7 and missed the playoffs because we missed the playoffs.
And I do understand when people say, yes, like Dak, Carson needs a run game, but here's the difference between those situations. Dak Prescott needs a great run game because I can argue that even when Zeke is in the game and he's shut down, guess who else is shut down? Dak Prescott. I can easily go back to last season or any season and say that, or just go back to last season. Our run game wasn't great.
Well, listen, go back.
It did enough to do the job.
Well, even if you go back to the Cowboys last season when they had Alfred Morris had some pretty good games for them.
Yes.
But Dak was still terrible because he didn't have that elite running back who could take over the game. And that was where that fits to your point where he needs a great running game and a guy who is having that great running game at that time because Zeke wasn't always on point when he came back last year in order to have that kind of success.
We'll go back to earlier this season.
I mean, Zeke's having a monster year this year.
There's a couple games where Zeke was shut down literally this season that Dak Prescott was hideous. You know what I mean? So it's with Carson Wentz, he needs the run game to be an element. The run game is not even an element right now, especially when the team and the coaches or whoever's running it, they don't go to a run attack.
Yeah.
It's literally the comparison of having a run game over in Dallas, that's great, and us, where not only do we not have a great run game, our run game is non-existent.
Yeah.
There's a difference there.
Yeah. And he tries to, Harlem Cowboy again, tries to say, just say Dak never had a losing season and a pro or as a pro. Stop trying to put wins and losses as a QB stat. It's the stupidest thing to me. One of the stupidest things to me in football is trying to say a QB is trying to attach wins and losses to QBs. Stop. It's a team game. Knock it off. Just stop because I can't do it. I can't take it. The idiocy. I can't.
I mean, listen, for a while he had the best offensive line in football, and they've always had a pretty decent defense over the last few years. So, I mean, he should. Since he's been a rookie, he's had decent talent around him up until Zeke got himself suspended last year. So, he should have winning seasons. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and say that he shouldn't, because he should. If he didn't, that's even more of a reason to worry.
Mm-hmm.
Even with Zeke being out last year, they surrounded him with enough talent since he's been a pro, as opposed to you can go back and look at Carson. So what did the Eagles do 2 years ago? They were what, 7-9, right?
But
that was with what, like Ryan Matthews and
Dorial Green Beckham.
Dorial Green Beckham.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was their
let's
guy.
start. If we really want to go tit for tat and start comparing rosters, we could start doing that. There's no need to do that. It's common sense. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
So, and listen, I mean, this is what I will say. The Cowboys better win a playoff game this year because all this chirping means absolutely nothing. And we get back to square one for you guys.
Let's see you do better than one and done. Before
I mean, it's all gonna be all for nil if you guys don't win a playoff game this year. I will say this. I will concede that I thought that the Amari Cooper trade for a first-round pick was absolutely ridiculous. Looks pretty smart right now. I'll give you guys that.
It was a great move.
That ended up being a great move and a guy who was a great fit for your offense.
Yeah, definitely. I'll bite the bullet on that. I was wrong, and I
Kyle,
have no problem with that.
Kyle Kramer says, let's talk Phillies. The Eagles are done. Chucks doesn't know baseball. So
Yeah,
we
no,
we
nothing
will talk a
baseball.
little bit of baseball when we do our
No
No Huddle segment in the second half of the show exclusively over on YouTube. So make sure you guys join us for that and make the jump. That's when we talk about some other different stuff. So
Yeah.
we'll probably talk a little Jimmy Butler maybe too.
Oh God.
Well, listen,
Yeah.
it's good news. It's good
Yeah.
news so far. It's as good as it can be.
Yeah, thank God.
I want to kind of, before we get into Rams and stuff, I do want to jump around the league because I'm really excited to talk about that finish in the Miami game
Yeah, we can
in
talk
New
about
England. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Wow. What a freaking ending to that game.
that.
New England in Miami is atrocious. I mean, Tom Brady, and
Who
they
knows
played,
why?
they played so
what
well
is it?
offensively.
What is it
but
there that they can't freaking win?
It's Tom's Achilles heel is playing in beautiful weather in Miami. It's crazy. And the ending to that play with the pass to Kenny Stills and then the just lateraling and Gronk, like
Falling,
just
stumbling.
flop. It was amazing.
Oh,
Amazing. But
it's amazing.
that was one of the funnest finishes I've seen in a long time. And Miami's got a shot this year at making the playoffs
They're not bad.
against a lot of adversity because I really believe that Miami came in this year. They have a good defense. They had some major injuries on that defense the first few weeks, especially to that defensive line. But, man, they just keep kind of trucking along. I mean, Tannehill's been hurt a lot this year again, which sucks because he started out very well, and I thought this was finally going to be the year for him.
I
But
don't know what you do with him.
I think that Tannehill's gone next year. Unless if they make the playoffs, it'd be
Exactly.
hard not to bring him back.
But your hand, I mean, then it's like a Bortles thing.
but
I know
well,
he's better than Bortles.
I've heard
but
rumors that Jacksonville might go after Tannehill in the offseason, which would be very interesting to me. But, I mean, to me, he's a guy that if he signs elsewhere or with the Dolphins, I think he needs a show-me deal, a 1 year, maybe a 2 year deal, or a 2 year deal with a low guarantee so that he can be cut. But I don't know, man. I mean, I do think they have to bring him back if they make the playoffs, but they need a quarterback. They've never had a quarterback since Dan Marino. And Tannehill, I think, could have been the guy. He's had some really kind of screwy injuries, and I don't think he ever has or will ever reach his potential. He's not quite on the Bradford level. I think he's been a little bit better in his pro career. But Bradford's another guy that came in who had a lot of pomp and circumstance coming in, and I think if he stayed healthy, would have been a very good quarterback in this league, but he never could stay healthy.
you know what he is? Or I should say the guy I'm about to name is Tannehill.
Who's that?
He's Marcus Mariota.
Healthy?
Healthy, he's above average, but
Probably.
he can never stay healthy.
Probably.
He's not going to jump off the page at you. He's not going to do fantastic
I
things.
like
but he's a-
Mariota, so I hope Mariota
I
doesn't
think
end up being
Mariota
hurt as
is
much as
similar,
Tannehill.
but a little bit better skill wise.
Well, the thing with Mariota is that he can move.
He can move. Well, Tannehill can move. The thing about Tannehill was coming out. Why people liked him was because he was what position did he play? I forget, but he's an athletic guy who can throw.
Mhm.
He's not a pocket passer. He's not a quarterback by trade, but he can throw the ball. He has an arm and he can move. So they stuck him at quarterback. So he was literally from the beginning of his career trying to learn how to be a passer, and I don't think he ever was going to be. I think when he came out, he's a little bit ahead of his time in the fact that nowadays in NFL there are more offenses suited for mobile quarterbacks. Like you have a Cam Newton. Now you have like Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, how they're tailoring that offense. There are more offensives like that. But when Tannehill was what came out, there weren't. It was just literally like you had to be a passer. So in that case, Tannehill was a little bit ahead of his time. But I think that's what Tannehill was, and the fact that he never was able to stay healthy, he was never able to properly develop a consistent level of play from the pocket.
Real quick on the Facebook, Zeke popped in. He said, fellas, Chucks, I got a name for you. Message you later. Mark Kelleher says, what's up, dudes? What's up, Mark? He says, what players on the Eagles do you think will be a bust?
What do you mean?
What do you mean by
Expound on that, Mark.
recently drafted? Or are we talking about signing busts? Let us know exactly what you mean, Mark,
Yeah.
and we'll answer it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, I think Miami's got a real good shot at making the playoffs, and I think that they're a team on the rise, man. I think the Patriots are finally.
You know what? I'll say this. I think Miami can legit make some noise, as in like win a playoff game,
Yeah.
on one condition. If they stop giving the damn ball to Frank Gore so much and give it to Drake more. Because the fact that they're having Gore still run the ball so many damn times when they can obviously see how good of a runner Kenyon Drake is, that's absurd. Like, that is absolutely absurd. Give it to Drake. He is a playmaker, and he will make noise. And I think that if they do that, and I can't guarantee that they will, they probably won't, but if they do that, I really think they can make noise in the playoffs. They can win a game. I'll give them a chance at winning a first round game.
Well, I like the way that team is set up going forward because, again, I think that they're building that team around the defense, and then the offense will probably be more of a focal point for them in the offseason.
Yeah.
Watch out for them in the Patriots division, which is essentially what we call it because it's always been the Patriots and everybody else.
Them and
in the AFC East.
I think the rest of looking at it now, the rest of the AFC East has a good foundation to go forward.
The Jets do,
and defensively and with their coach, the Bills do. I just don't know about that offense. I don't know if that offense will ever be good. McDermott has to get an offensive coordinator that's legit. So, like, defensively, I love them defensively, but on the offensive side of the ball, that's where the question mark is.
What's your guys' stance on Sam Darnold at the moment? Him and Allen.
Oh, I still have more confidence in Darnold than Allen, but Allen has looked better sooner than I thought.
Agreed.
I think both have potential to be good quarterbacks.
Yes.
I don't think either are superstar level quarterbacks.
Top 15 quarterbacks.
Top 10
to 15
quarterbacks. They can be good. They definitely can be good.
This year for Darnold, in my opinion, is a wash because not only, I mean, first off, he's gotten hurt, but it's not his issue. I mean, that when you talk about, like when we were talking about Dak Prescott earlier, with like the offense is structured around him, that's not the case for Sam Darnold over in New York.
Right.
Yeah.
At all.
At all, yeah.
So
Sorry, real quick. All of the rookie quarterbacks, and I hate to say it, like, because I know it's going to stir some people, people are going to laugh at me, but even Lamar Jackson, I think they've all looked impressive at times this year, and going forward, they all have potential.
So Mark says yes recently over the last couple of years, I guess as far as guys that we've drafted. And he also adds, do you think Sidney Jones will develop into a legit corner?
Yes.
He's got to bulk. He's got to bulk up.
Yes, I do think.
I think that's a good point, Ryan. I think if he gets a little bit of size on him, yeah, absolutely.
Bulk up. He's thin. He's lean.
He couldn't do that last season because he was recovering.
Yep. Bulk up because
Kyle Kramer says Sidney sucks. Sidney's playing hurt. He's playing hurt right now.
Stop, Kyle.
He's not in a good position to succeed at all.
No, and they're basically throwing him out there as the number one playing hurt right now because you have no other choice.
He's a body with a helmet. That's
essentially.
All he is.
So, I think that he will. I agree with Ryan. That's the main thing. He's definitely got to bulk up.
Go rewatch games from earlier this season and how he's running at full speed and compare that to how he's running full speed
he doesn't
against the
look good.
Cowboys. It's not the same player. He is hurt. So knock it off. Everyone that wants to go out and say that Sidney Jones is already a bust, just stop. Just do I need to remind you of guys who just need some time? Knock it off.
So he wants to know, do we think that Mark wants to know, do we think that Adams will be legit?
That's the same thing.
Also, Kyle asked them, why is he playing? Sidney's playing because he's
no
healthy enough to be on the field, and there's nobody else.
There's nobody else.
He's legit a body. He's
gone.
legit a body. That's the problem. I mean, he's healthy enough to step on the field, but
because they haven't given us a call yet, that's why he's playing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason why.
But back to what Mark said. What we've seen from Adams now, do we think that Adams is going to be legit? To me, the jury's out. It's still out. I like Adams. I think Chucks can kind of dive into some of the things more of what he has to develop on, but I like him. I think he deserves, again, he can for the rest of the season, at the very least, he deserves to take the bulk of the load and see what you have. And well, you have Sproles now too, but Sproles isn't an every down back anymore.
Well, he never was. But I mean, you got to limit Sproles, and plus this is his last season.
Yeah, but I feel like a couple of years, even though he wasn't our quote-unquote every down back, they relied on
Oh
him
yeah. Oh,
much more than any of
You-
the other
you
2 or 3
remember
backs that were on the
Carson's-
roster.
You remember Carson's rookie year? Sproles was the only legit weapon we had. He was the
Yeah.
number one weapon on the offense. Everything was through Sproles.
He should, in my opinion, guys, and this could be
Well, it's
seen
Ryan
as
Matthews couldn't stay on the field.
he couldn't stay on the field.
good God.
He couldn't hold onto the ball either.
People could have problem with what I'm about to say because he has had 2 touchdowns. In my opinion, for the next handful of games, you should not run him as a running back. You should have him clearly as a wide receiver.
Who? Wait, which one? are you talking
Sproles.
about? Okay, yeah.
Because the situation they're in right now and the situation he's in, as you know, he's obviously aging and he's very limited. The only time he's of anything is when he's in open space.
Oh yeah.
Well, now with Corey hurt, I mean, you may have to run him as a running back.
Well, they
Yeah.
just signed that kid Boston Scott, which I guess I'll go into in a little bit. But I mean, that's what Sproles is. He's a space player. You need to get him in space. He's not going to hold up if you constantly bang him inside and he start.
Right, and I think
Yeah.
you have to pick and choose your spots when you decide to do that. But I agree with you for the most part that you have to utilize him much more in the passing game. I like Adams though. I mean, he seems to have a pretty good knack for finding the holes. He's not the fastest guy, but he seems to be somewhat elusive as well. I mean, much more than we thought he was going to be.
He's improved.
He's definitely improved. I think that this guy should be your bell cow for the rest of the season in regards to carrying the bulk of the load for sure.
Go ahead, Chuck.
It's the same thing I said weeks ago, so I'll just reiterate real quick. I think Adams can be a good complementary back.
And
He's
that's where we agreed. Yeah.
he's limited in the fact that you can't run him east to west, and for God knows why they still insist on running him east to west. But if you get him going downhill, he is very good because he's got once he builds up speed, he has speed. Like if you get him to that second, like how many times have we seen him go through the hole, get to the second level, and turn that corner and just like, oh, here he goes, because he can do that very well. And what he's improved on, like I'm telling you, go watch his college tape and go watch his tape now, and there is a substantial difference in how he plants his foot and
Well, I was
makes
going
a
to
cut.
say, I feel like the quickness in his feet
is much better. He
right.
drops his hips much better than he did in college, and maybe that's Deuce coaching him up, but that's made a huge difference because now in the backfield, when there's penetration by defensive linemen, he avoids it. He hardly gets tackled by the initial penetration, which is a very, very impressive thing for a guy his size. So, I mean, like with Josh Adams, some of the other downfalls are he's not versatile. He's not really a factor in the passing game, not really a factor in pass blocking. He's for a guy his size, he's really not a power back, guys. Like he's not a type of guy where you're going to have like a Marshawn Lynch type of run where he's going to break tackles and power through guys and truck guys over. He's not that. That's not his style, and maybe he's just too upright the way he runs, and he doesn't have strength in his lower body to do that. But he's not a power runner. So why he's limited is because he doesn't offer anything else besides being a downhill runner with some breakaway speed.
No, and it's almost like the DeMarco Murray effect, where DeMarco Murray was a downhill runner,
Yes.
and they constantly insisted on running him east to west,
Yes, exactly.
and it affected his effectiveness on the field.
I was just going to say, and I've seen this for a couple weeks, but I was going to wait until I really saw, a couple games of him doing the same thing. I was going to say he looks identical to like a poor man's DeMarco Murray, the way he runs,
Right.
the way that he gains speed, and like you said, he turns that corner.
Turns the corner once he gets to the second level, yeah.
The motion is very similar to him. I'm not saying he's going to be DeMarco Murray,
No.
but
Yeah.
a very much poor man's DeMarco Murray.
Well,
Which, for somebody who's undrafted, that's not a bad
No,
comparison
not at all.
Yeah.
No, and I think that we've talked about it for a couple of weeks. That I'm on board with you. I think if you have him with like a Tevin Coleman type of a back as the lead featured back, he would be an excellent handcuff for a guy like
that. Oh
that.
my God, yeah.
But I just don't. I agree with you. I don't think he's ever going to be the number one featured back. But you talk about a number two guy to handcuff to, a bell cow. Absolutely, he has a strong place. And for a guy who's undrafted, and I know people said, well, he's undrafted because he was hurt. Yeah, but he was also a project too. So even if he
Yeah.
was drafted, he was going to be going late.
Go look at the improvements again. Go look at the improvements. Just watch a couple games from college and
Listen,
watch him run now.
If you want
He's
to,
improved.
if you want to say he would have gone in the 5th,
Yeah.
6th round ish, that's fine. Still, even the productivity of a guy who can end up being a really strong number 2 handcuff back, that's a huge value for the Eagles if they can, or any team wherever he ends
and
up.
I'll say this: I see more potential, definitely more potential
In him.
as a runner than I ever saw in Corey Clement.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree with
Mhm.
that. Corey has learned no patience whatsoever.
And in terms of Boston Scott, because I know, like, I know I made the
so
post.
kind of fill people in on who
Boston Scott
is.
I know it's another first name guy of a town that we don't like. So we now have a Dallas.
We got Dallas
and, we have
and
a
Boston on this team.
Next week we'll sign a quarterback named New York.
Boston Scott, someone I liked coming out of the draft. His athleticism he was in the top 5 percentile at the combine with his 40 time, his shuttle drill. He tested very, very well, very athletic. Not at the combine, at his pro day. Sorry, he didn't go to the combine. But he's very athletic, very good in space. If you watch his preseason highlights, man, he can move. Like, he's got speed, quickness, burst, elusiveness. He can return kicks and punts. So he's got the physical attributes. What he needs to work on is what every scat back needs to work on when they go to the pro level, and that's adjusting to the speed of the NFL. Being able to bulk up also. He's a little light still. I mean, he's not like a Donnell Pumphrey, thank God, but he still could add on like 5 more pounds to take on blockers more, tackles more. Will help him go a long way because he won't lose any speed or quickness that way. He just needs to learn how to properly use vision. He needs to learn how to be an effective route runner out of the backfield. He's still raw in that aspect, and he just overall mentally he needs to learn the game, the pro level game, and not just run to the open area of an open field. Like,
and I think
he's
the
dangerous in that way.
I think the comparison you did use is a Darren Sproles when you talk about his potential in the league going forward.
He can be a nice role player like that. I don't think he'll ever be like, he'll be like a poor man's Darren Sproles. I don't think he'll ever be like a Tariq Cohen. I think to me, the new Darren Sproles is Tariq Cohen. I think that is him. You want the next Darren Sproles for the next 10 years, you're looking at him in Tariq Cohen. I don't think Boston Scott will ever be that, but I think here and there, Boston Scott with development, he can develop into like, your situational guy who can return kicks and maybe make a play or two out of the backfield.
I want to read you guys a tweet from Les Bowen from earlier. They said, say you're Donnell Pumphrey. The Eagles just IR'd Corey Clement. You were on their practice squad. You know the offense well, and they filled the roster spot with a 5'7" running back who is not you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's Chuck's
So-
boy, Dono.
Oh my God.
Donnell was not happy on Twitter, by the way. He
Mark-
put out a tweet. He was not happy.
Really?
No.
What does
I'll
it
pull up the tweet.
Okay. Mark Kelleher, he asked, he said, with Carson seemed to be struggling a little bit, what do you think is affecting him this year compared to last? O-line, loss of certain coaches, mentally, physically. We talked about a lot of that earlier in the show, Mark. It's probably maybe a little bit of both. I think the physically is actually the thing we were probably least worried about. But we went into that pretty extensively earlier in the show. You could definitely run back and check that out. Kyle says the RPO doesn't work when you don't run the ball effectively. Wentz
point.
needs to drop. Yeah, absolutely. Wentz needs to drop back and fire the ball, not waste time sticking into the running back gut and pulling it out. Then find a receiver. D doesn't respect the RPO.
That's 100% correct. Stop.
yeah,
Like,
you're right.
even late in the game, late in the fourth quarter, for some reason, Carson is still faking a handoff. What? Why? Why are you doing that? There's no point. I don't know if that's Carson's call or Doug's call, but they got to stop doing that because it's a wasted motion. It does nothing. Absolutely does nothing. And what I will say with the RPO, real quick, the RPO last year was a compliment to the system when Carson was in. We had a few plays every now and then during the game, but it wasn't the offense.
It is the system this year.
This year, you don't have a stretch element either horizontally or vertically. There's no stretch element. Why? Like, defenses don't respect our weapons outside of Zach Ertz. You know who they matched up Zach Ertz on? Byron Jones, a top cornerback. They didn't match him up on Alshon. They didn't match him on Golden Tate or Aguilar. It was on Zach Ertz. And they put everyone else matching up against our wide receivers. When you don't have weapons that can make plays like that on their own, besides Ertz, it's a problem. Defenses don't respect you that way. So
What do you got, Ryan?
So I found the tweets. It's a combination of two. It's actually better. The comment under it's fantastic. I'll read the comment as well. So he put, my next move is going to be my best move, trust. And under it he put F him, but he didn't put F.
Yeah.
And then the first comment under it, somebody put, oh, you're mad, man. Like, you're not mad. You're mad, man.
Oh, man.
And apparently a bunch of San Diego Chargers fans want him to come there.
Sure.
Good.
Because
Have him.
listen,
See
he's
ya.
hometown boy.
Gotta
Later.
go.
Yeah.
Deuces.
Real quick, but I'm gonna use this as my last address to, or not last address to Harlem Cowboy in terms of the Wentz Dak debate. In one of the groups on Facebook, Vinny posted a thing about Skip Bayless saying that Dak is better than Wentz, blah blah, and a few members in the group commented, a couple of them being Cowboys fans. And they said, one of them said, with the exception of Dak's first emergent year when no one had film on him and he was rolling through teams, he has been mediocre at best in my opinion. As a Cowboys fan, I totally wish we had Wentz as our QB for the future. The second Cowboys fan says, I'm the biggest Cowboy fan here, and I take Wentz over Dak. Dak has all the intangibles you could ever ask for, but his accuracy is average at best. So
There are good people in
there
the world.
there are knowledgeable Cowboys fans. In the world.
I have a lot of friends that are Cowboys fans, and every single one of them who's not a troll will tell you, I don't know a single Cowboys fan who's not a troll that will tell you that they would rather have Dak over Carson Wentz. Even with this season unfolding as it is. I've had this conversation for the last 2 days, and every one of them have said they would still rather have Carson Wentz over Dak without question. And they think that their own fans are crazy for even entertaining the idea that Dak is on Carson's level. Again, we've said it before. I think Dak's a top 15 quarterback.
Yeah, I do too.
Carson.
Some people on this station
his-
don't even think that.
I know.
So we're being generous. Like
His ceiling, I would say maybe 10 to 12. Ryan's one of them, right? His ceiling would be maybe 10 to
20.
12. I'm talking his ceiling would maybe be 10 to 12.
60.
Carson's ceiling, you're talking
top.
top 2 or 3.
Oh, he's one. I mean, he was one for majority of
Right.
portions last season.
Right, but you do have other young quarterbacks who are
Him
in
and
that
Mahomes.
argument.
Him and
You have
Mahomes are 1-2.
Mahomes.
I want to see your
To
two.
me,
of
him
them.
and Mahomes are 1-2.
Still not taking Jared Goff off the table yet either.
Yeah.
But his worst, I would say he would be 5, maybe 6. At worst, Carson
I wouldn't
Wentz.
go that low. I'd go like worst 3.
I don't
That's
know.
my
My boy
opinion.
Mitchie Trubisky, I like him. He didn't have a great game this week, but I love Mitch Trubisky.
I was going to compliment him later too, but that's getting thrown out.
I'm just
Ruined
saying there
He
is
had one more minute to go. He had to do it.
there's one man on this station, and really there is only one man on this station who's been on the Trubisky bandwagon since day one. This guy.
And I am a hater.
That's okay.
Hater.
That's okay.
I was always in the middle.
He'll never be the other guys that we mentioned, but
Yeah.
Mitch is going to be a lot better than people. Mitchie Poo's going to be a lot better than people give him credit for.
Good friend of mine went to that college,
Yeah.
North Carolina. When he was there, he's like, dude, this guy's a child. His hand is held. His hand is held from that day on. Hater. You'll see. You'll see.
Oh my God.
Anyway, great first half of the show, guys. If you joined us on Facebook, Periscope, and Instagram, please click the link at the top of the page. We'll drop it in the comments section. Second half of the show, we'll continue to talk Eagles football. We could talk around the league. We're going to do our no huddle segment. So for you guys asking for some baseball talk, Chucks will sit back while me and Ryan do a little baseball banner because that's about all he can do.
Sure.
He'll just say, Mike Trout, yeah. But, we'll do that and much more. Again, Scanzano Sports, our poll question. Gibson Mayer, our LLC, our certified public accountant, make them yours. GibsonMayer.com. And also Specialized Physical Therapy. Find them on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Second half of the show over on YouTube. We'll see you guys in a few minutes. Welcome back to Birds of a Feather live on A2DRadio.com. From the Real Talk Studios, we are on YouTube. If you made the jump from Facebook, Periscope, and Instagram, we appreciate it. Welcome back. If you stuck with us on YouTube, we appreciate you always. Chuck's Chrome, Ryan Brodo over on the ones and twos. We are brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants. Make them yours, GibsonMayer.com. Also by Specialized Physical Therapy. You can find them on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. You can find them in person in Burlington, Princeton, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Our Scanzano Sports poll question this week: what was the most infuriating part of the Eagles' loss? Opening kickoff fumble not overturned, offense's slow start, late touchdowns to Amari Cooper, or everything? I think we addressed that. For us, there was a lot of things, everything for the most part. But yeah, so we had that. So you want to go around the league? Any other games you want to talk about, Chucks?
Well, I think, because I mean, part of it was going to be part of my no huddle if we didn't get to it, but I think we got to talk Chiefs Ravens.
Okay.
Did you see the game?
I saw portions of it. I didn't see the whole game.
Man, if anyone still doesn't think that Patrick Mahomes is the MVP of the league, I don't know what you're looking at.
It's a special talent.
Did you guys see that?
Special kid.
One, his no-look pass.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And then two, his fourth down pass, late to Tyreek Hill.
4th and 9.
4th and 9. Unbelievable. This guy can make throws that no one else can really make other than Aaron Rodgers. And and you can't use the excuse of he has more weapons now than Drew Brees, because in that game, Hunt is no longer there. So he has like Damian Williams and Spencer Ware as like the main backs.
And Ware got hurt in that game, didn't he?
Ware got hurt in that game. He has no Sammy Watkins. Tyreek Hill was banged up, and then he has Travis Kelce. So what exactly he did not have better, and he's playing the Baltimore Ravens defense, which is one of the better defenses in the league, and he still threw for over 300 yards passing, and was it 3 touchdowns? Holy crap! Holy crap!
You missed something, though, Chucks.
Ben.
You've named somebody that he does have, but you didn't mention him. He does have Kelvin Benjamin. I'm sorry, I had to do it. I'm sorry, I had to.
Oh, my God. But, yeah, he's, to me, unless if he throws, 3 interceptions in each of his last 3 games or something like that, and he completely spirals off the face of the earth the last 3 games, I don't know how you can't give the MVP to him. He's clearly, consistently put up monster numbers, and even in the losses, he's put up monster numbers. He's playing out of his mind. If he had a bad game last game, which he could have because he's going against the Baltimore defense, which is really good again, then I guess you can make a case. But he put up great numbers, while Drew Brees playing Tampa Bay put up 200-something yards passing, and what was it, 2 interceptions or something like that? So I don't know what else. And Tyreek Hill again, even a banged up Tyreek Hill making plays still. I don't know how you can't talk about him as the top 5 wide receiver in the league right now. Were you gonna say something, bro? I don't know if you had to.
The thing with the Saints, and that was the game I was going to ask you guys about, because on paper, I mean, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, it's not a compelling game, but obviously going back to it, for the first half, or I would say, 3 or 2.5 quarters, I should say, through halfway that third quarter, Tampa had firm control of that entire game.
Yep.
And the Saints end up coming back from the dead and winning. Now, I want to ask you guys this. Does that make you think more of New Orleans, that they can play such a bad game and still win? Or do you see what they did 2 weeks ago now against Dallas, where they looked awful, and you see now through 2.5 to 3 quarters against Tampa Bay, and they looked awful? Do you look down on them more now because of those 2 lackluster games, even though they find a way to win one of them? Or do you think that truly shows that they're that damn good?
I think I don't look down on them personally,
Okay.
because I kind of anticipated them having a little bit of a tougher time with them going against a division rival on the road. Yeah, they had a bye week, but I think that Cowboys game also kind of got them out of their loop a little bit, and their confidence was a little shaken. I think that them being able to fight through adversity and come out with the win is a good sign for them. So it's not as a whole. I still think they are who they are. I think they have as good a shot as anyone in the NFC to make it to the Super Bowl. I still think it's them and the Rams in the driver's seat of the NFC.
I wanted to ask you guys about this story. Oakland, the city of Oakland, suing the Raiders and suing the league and all 31 teams.
Are they really?
Yeah, so
Wait,
that
who
came
is?
out today. I have it up here. I'll give you some of the details. So the city of Oakland is suing the NFL, the Raiders, and the other 31 teams in the league. So I'll just kind of I'll read some of this here, okay? So this is from the NFL, the NFL.com. It's on their app here, but it says, City of Oakland has filed a federal antitrust lawsuit trying to recover damages for the Raiders' upcoming move to Las Vegas. Suit filed Tuesday in a U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California against the Raiders, the NFL, and the other 31 clubs seeks lost revenue, money Oakland taxpayers invested in the Raiders, and other costs. The suit does not ask the court to prevent the Raiders' move to Las Vegas, but it asks for damages that will help pay off the approximately $80 million in debt remaining from the renovations of the Coliseum. That's kind of just the basic gist of it. They also say that the defendants violated federal antitrust laws, and the league violated its own relocation policies when the teams voted in March 2017 to approve the Raiders' decision to move to Las Vegas. So what's interesting about this is they didn't sign a lease yet for next season in the Coliseum, and the plan is they're not supposed to move till 2020. Now they're saying that there may be no lease. Where do the Raiders play next year?
I have no clue.
This is baffling.
I have no clue. I don't know.
Could this be London?
No.
No,
It takes a lot.
Yeah,
No, they
I don't
can't
know
do
if they
that.
could pull that off in a
No,
1-year
They
stint.
wouldn't be able to.
They'd only have months to be able to get that done, and there's no way because, obviously they have other things that happen when you talk about when they play over in Wembley and all that.
Yeah,
There's
that's true.
There's other events that are booked for that. That would be nearly impossible. A London move, which is it seems inevitable for Jacksonville at some point, that's going to be years in the making for them to make that happen.
Yeah. Takes a while.
I mean,
Foolish Demon says Qualcomm.
Qualcomm.
Yeah, Qualcomm Stadium. I don't think
don't
that's
know.
viable.
No.
What happened to the old San Diego Stadium?
It's a good question.
I was
don't
gonna
know.
say. I mean, if that's still
I mean,
That's
if
a
you're
good
talking
question.
something that's not a major move, I mean, San Diego could be an option. I mean, I would have thought L.A. would have been logical, but they have nowhere to play because there's 2 teams already playing there. I don't know. This is going to be an interesting story to follow.
That is very interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that's wow.
you have an uncertainty of where you're going to play your games in 2019, and it sounds like it's not going to be in the city of Oakland. San Diego seems like a pretty logical place. I don't know what the status is of that stadium that they played in.
the other one, and this is not. I mean, this is obviously a farther journey, but I'll go back, and it's obviously different circumstances. But do you guys remember when obviously Hurricane Katrina, and the Saints they had to play in San Antonio for a year?
Yeah.
Is that an option?
Could be.
This is crazy, though. I mean, it's crazy.
Like that's a major story.
How did they let this happen?
Well, he says, okay, Foolish Demon says, Qualcomm is. Why did I confuse that stadium? Qualcomm is San Diego Stadium.
Oh.
He's right.
There you go.
He says San Diego State Aztecs play in San Diego.
There you go.
But it's not like San Diego is far from Oakland.
I don't think they care if they're the San Diego
It's on the same
Raiders for a
coast.
year.
On the
Yeah,
same coast.
I don't think it matters if it's close or not. I mean, there's already a lot of animosity and heat over the Raiders moving in that city. So
Sure, yeah. No, good point. Good point.
at this point, they just got to find a place. They got to find a place to put a team on a field somewhere. I mean, Qualcomm probably sounds like the most logical place. But aren't they trying to get the Chargers back? Or am I wrong?
Oh,
about
I haven't
that?
heard anything. I mean, you could be right. I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
Speaking
It's
of Oakland, here's not as dire needs as that is, but somebody asked me earlier, and I want to ask you guys the same question. So the Raiders, very shortly, they released running back C.J. Anderson.
Mhm.
Somebody asked me earlier, should the Eagles go after him as like a short-term emergency scenario now that our playoff chances are still somehow realistic?
We go after who? Sorry.
C.J. Anderson. Because because Corey's gone.
No, I think at this point it's just you ride with the guys you have.
yeah, I mean that's a tough call at this point.
Yeah.
You know.
Not that I don't like C.J. Anderson. I just this late in the season I don't having to try to implement him. Like it's by the time he gets a grasp of the offense, you're talking about it's already too late. So
And I would have to think that if Oakland, of all places, if Oakland released him so shortly, there has to be a reason.
So when was he released?
4 hours ago. And they literally just got him this
I was
past
gonna
week.
say, I mean, maybe if the Eagles hadn't made the move they already made, that might have been an option. But
But I mean, how is it really impactful if they quickly cut this other running back,
probably not.
or if they cut Pumphrey and they store the running back, if they store Boston on a practice squad?
Well,
you know
they
what I mean?
took him off a practice squad, so
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I just look at what they did with DeAndre Carter, to where they were so soon to
But can-
bounce him.
can you do that?
Yeah.
Can you take a guy off of a practice squad and then put him immediately on your practice squad after
Yeah,
you
but-
sign him?
yeah, but he'd be on
I mean, he'd be
he'd be
exposed again.
Exposed again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he'd be exposed again.
Yeah, I guess
It's counterproductive. That's why
yeah,
nobody
it's
does
Yeah,
it.
kinda
yeah.
pointless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because then the Saints could just come right back like yoink.
Yeah, I don't think I'd go that route. Not at this point. If it was 2 weeks ago, I might think a little bit more about it. But
Or if we had one more victory.
or if we had another
If
one,
we won.
maybe. I mean, yeah,
And
you
if-
might look at that.
And then I think they're just trying to fill a specific role, I guess. Like Clement was like the third down guy, passing guy. So maybe they're trying to find another in case Sproles gets hurt again. They have Scott there who fills a similar role. I don't know. I'm just shooting in the dark.
Maybe
I
it's
mean,
me, but every time I see Sproles touch the ball, I go,
See, I get excited.
I get
I
excited.
get excited.
I'm like,
I
go.
I don't know.
When the game he came
Black.
the game he came back 2 weeks ago against the Redskins, I was giddy. I was giddy.
I was too.
I was, but still, it's almost like when you watch JoJo step back on the court or step on the court or, like pretty much all of last year. Every time he stepped on the court, regardless of like you kind of knew he was like pretty much healthy at that point or he was close to healthy,
You held your breath.
you still hold your breath every time.
But here's the difference between those two, Chrome. No disrespect to Sproles, but if he gets hurt again, what's the difference?
I hear you.
You know what I mean?
I
He's
hear
not
you.
our future.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think there's a big difference because we were looking a lot better for a playoff run. Now, I mean, when we could talk about it, I don't even think we touched on that yet because we were talking about
No, we didn't.
The
even talk about it.
we
chances-
can talk about it. We can
the
talk about it.
chances of the Eagles making the playoffs. Now, we felt very deflated and very defeated, but we're just going to speak purely on fact, and it's not over. And a lot of teams did us a lot of favors this week by losing. So conceivably, if essentially Minnesota and Carolina go 1-2, and we go 2-1, we can make the playoffs.
I can't say that with a straight face. It's disgusting. It's
Logic, mathematically, we're still in it. We are still in it, and if you think about it,
But it's not.
It's not far out. Like, what were our chances
It's not-
back in 2008? Remember when we
Right.
won against the Cowboys? Like, we blew out the Cowboys in Week 17 to get in. I think our chances were even less at that
you
point.
need like
So
9
I
things to
get
happen.
it. Yeah, we needed a bunch of things to happen, and they happened. So I get it. There's still a chance. For me, it's just it's already been emotionally exhausting to have to go
Right.
through all of this.
But I want to have something to still cheer for.
Oh, definitely.
Other than Zach
Definitely.
Ertz going for the reception record for
Definitely.
tight ends. But I think it's not unrealistic. When we broke it down, you looked at the Panthers have 2 games against New Orleans left. And what was the other one they had?
I don't know.
Atlanta.
He was at the,
I think they had Atlanta left, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So you can say they're pretty much out of it.
That's pretty. It's
So
not
it comes-
automatic, but it's as
comes-
close as it's everything you could have asked for to be in this situation.
Because I think New Orleans is still going to be playing for something
They
in that
will be.
final week.
Oh, especially if the Rams beat us. So there's your thing. Like the Rams beat us, that actually could be in our favor because the Saints will automatically still be playing for something.
That's why it's so preposterous. Because even in years past, the top couple seeds, who these the Vikings and Panthers will be playing in the last 3 weeks, they already had the first seed or second seed locked up to where they were. I mean, I could argue that no NFC teams will be sitting their stars because they will all be playing for something.
This week will be very telling because this is the week. So Minnesota is the one that
Minnesota, yeah.
it's going to go one way or the other, and we should know probably by the end of this week. This week they have Miami in Minnesota, they're in Detroit, and then they host the Bears. So I think that they could very easily lose that Bears game.
Yep.
Even if it's in Minnesota. I think that even though the Lions play tough,
They're scrappy.
they're a scrappy team. I think we could chalk that up as a win for them probably.
Mm-hmm.
The Dolphins game's the wild card.
If Tannehill stays healthy, it could be very interesting.
Whatever it's going to be interesting. If that defense steps up this week and Tannehill is healthy and they I don't know, man. I think if Miami loses this week, it's done. Like any glimmer of hope that I have, even if we win, it's done for me.
Yeah.
So, what do you and for us, I think we lose this week. I think that we could beat the Texans, and I think the Texans are due for a fall down game, so to speak. I think they're due for that loss. And I mean, listen, we just watched what the Giants did to Washington this week. I mean, that was insane what they did to Washington this week.
It's disgusting. So Ralphie last night, he sent me the picture that went viral on social media with all like the scenarios, and I was ignoring it for the most part, and then he kept sending it to me, and then finally I sent him a voice message. I'm like, you know what, Delavecchio, you go to hell. You know why? Because what I'm seeing right here, it's realistic. That's the thing that makes me so mad. It's like just end
happen.
me already. Just end it.
Yeah, it's like
It's a freaking tease.
it's like you want it to be ended, but at the same time you don't because you
No.
want to watch football. It's like I get it. I'm just so emotionally spent. Like I know this week is gonna be a loss. So I'm just like I'm not gonna. It's gonna be miserable again. It's like the Saints. It's like leading up to the Saints game. I know we're gonna lose, so it's hard for me to get invested. Now after next week, let's say the Vikings do end up losing this week to the Dolphins. Okay, say they lose to the Dolphins.
Is that going to get you a
and
little
then
more excited?
Panthers obviously they lose to the Saints, and then this next week after we lose to the Rams, you might see me a little like pep in my step, like okay, here we go. It's possible, but I mean right now it's just hard to emotionally like get into.
Are we going to get you out of mourning, Chucks?
Yeah, I might have to go splitsies.
I have a feeling. So, put this scenario out there. Say, for example, the Vikings and Panthers both lose this week, but we somehow beat the Rams. I'll be ready for two things. Number one, fraudulent or not, I'm celebrating like we won the effing Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then, Chucks, I'll be awaiting another video from the Super Bowl with you jumping in the air, just bursting into flames,
Oh my
because it's
God.
going to be that moment.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Because
like, oh
everything
my God, we
flips
can do
again.
it.
Oh, my
Yeah.
God, we're in the driver's
No,
seat.
yeah,
Oh, my
yeah.
God.
I was thinking like when last week when it was announced that we have a shot at the wild card even if we lose the Cowboys, I didn't want to say it out loud because I didn't want to jinx the game. But now that we ended up losing to the Cowboys anyway, doesn't matter. But I was like, what if we get the wild card? Cowboys win the division, but then we somehow have to play the Cowboys the first round, and then we beat them in the first round. That would be
Screw
great.
the sweep. We got one. We got one.
But I mean, it's probably not gonna happen because like the Cowboys would get what seed? What seed are they looking at?
They're going to
The
get the
fourth seed?
Yeah, they're
So yeah, we're not gonna.
So Foolish Demon says, I'm so done with this shit. We got to beat the Rams and Texans. I don't think we get it done. He says, "Excuse me for being out of it with 3
No, I
games
hear
left."
I hear you. I don't blame
You're
you,
not the only
Florstein.
one.
You're not the only one. I don't
Harlem
blame you.
Cowboy says we could play much better against the Colts. Philly knows us well, but the Colts are going to be shocked how physical Dallas is. That's true. Very physical. I think that they're going to be going up against a lot more of a creative offense, though, and that I think will be a formidable foe against Dallas.
I think that's going to be. I think that's going to be one of the best games of the week.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a
great
really
game.
good game. I think it's going to be a really, really good game.
Just think about the possibilities.
Stop
I
it,
mean,
stop it.
Anybody can win at any time, any given Sunday, especially once you get into the playoffs. It's a different monster. I just hate the idea of going on the road, though, to L.A. or going to, New Orleans or really anywhere for that matter.
Just
with the
playing
way
a
this
game.
this team is playing.
Who's supposed to be the 3 seed? Sorry, I
Well, it's
forget.
going to be between New
Bears,
Orleans,
okay.
Bears, and the Rams.
Right now, it's the Bears in the 3rd seed, right?
I believe so.
Bears at 3 seed, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
we'd
wouldn't
if
want to go to Chicago
we're
either.
gonna have to.
Yeah.
That's looking like it's gonna be us going to Chicago.
Right now, it's New Orleans 1 because they have the tiebreaker over Rams because they beat them. Then it's the Rams. Then it's Bears.
Then again, thinking about it,
Uh-oh.
if we go to I'm going way too far into this.
Do
but
it.
We
Do
need
it.
fillers.
While we
Say-
can.
say-
No, while we
say
can.
while we
In 2 weeks,
So
we'll be done. It'll
we
be
need
over.
to talk about something. So I'm just gonna hypothetically say, okay, say we do get into a 6th seed, we go to Chicago. Thinking about the matchup, their offense is nothing to write home about.
But their quarterback.
They got Mitchie Poo.
Huh?
They got Mitchie Poo.
Yeah, as a
quarterback
runner.
now.
As a runner, what I'm saying is our defensive line can do. Our defensive line has been playing really well past few weeks. Let me just say that.
is a superstar.
Let me say that. Okay, let me just say that.
Michael Bennett's been
So,
amazing this year.
If we dominate the line of scrimmage against the Bears, contain Mitchell Trubisky, he can't throw against our weakened secondary. I'm just filling
mute
time.
I'm
I just
mute
think
my
I
mic. I
swear to
can't.
God, I'm not saying this is gonna happen. I'm just hypothetically talking. Sue me, okay? Sue me. But I'm just saying matchup-wise. You started it, Bruno.
Continue.
Just matchup-wise, I don't think our defense is a horrible matchup against the Bears' offense.
So we're previewing round 1 of the playoffs already.
We're previewing the NFC Championship.
We're a little bit ahead of ourselves.
We're gonna beat the
God.
Saints first round of the playoffs, and we're gonna face the Bears.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm talking about it.
I
I'm just
know.
so
But this is the predicament they get
know.
themselves in because somehow we still can have this conversation.
It's amazing.
And then would we play the Cowboys in the 2nd round?
Sure.
Would we?
Let's say sure.
Well, don't forget the Cowboys still got to
No,
get to the
we'd be
second round,
no,
too.
we'd be playing. Okay, no, we'd be the 60, so we'd be playing.
Oh, I'm
the
sorry. We'll
Rams
play
or
the Rams
Saints.
again.
The Saints again.
My fault. I forgot.
Okay, that's when we'd lose. I
Oh.
can't. I
Oh,
can't.
yeah, we could beat the Bears. That's a great matchup. You know, a matchup that will never happen ever.
No. Yeah, I don't think we're getting there.
It was all hypotheticals. It's just all hypotheticals.
I was going to say this. I was going to say this. I was going to save it for no huddle. Actually, screw it. I'm saving it for no huddle. I'll
Okay,
save
all
it.
right, that's fine. That's fine. Sorry, a little off the rails. Sorry.
That's all right. I mean, honestly, we could use the rest of the time and just go no huddle the rest of the way.
Okay,
Yeah,
we
let's
could.
move on.
Let's just bring up
yeah.
random topics.
Topics,
Go ahead,
yeah.
Brodo. Throw in
Go
your
ahead.
first one.
So, and the reason why I got mad at you right at the first half of the show when you brought up Mitchell, not even Mitchell.
It's Mitchie Poo for me.
It's not for me. It's
We're on
Mitchell.
that level.
He's on that level.
I think as one of his 3 supporters since he's come into the league, I think I've earned the right to call him Mitchie Poo.
It might only be 3. I was going to say I was flat out wrong about the Chicago Bears.
Fuller
There-
Steeman said we can beat the Bears next year.
Yeah, that's right. Start previewing week 15, 2020, or 2019, whatever freaking year we're in. I was going to say that there's 3 teams I was dead wrong about with like my predictions at the beginning of the season. It was the Dolphins. I had them as a bottom 5 team. The Seahawks, I thought they were going to be a 3rd place, the best team in that division.
I agree. Yeah, I was down on them too.
I thought they were going to go through a complete reboot. they didn't go through a reboot. They just changed their identity.
Yeah.
Which it's kudos to them. Great for that coach, and obviously and they have a great quarterback too, so it helps. And the third team is the Chicago Bears because, like, don't get me wrong, I thought they were gonna have like 7-8 wins. I didn't think they would be this good. And the more I watch them, they remind me a lot of the Eagles team last year. Obviously, the quarterback is nowhere near where Wentz was last year, but structurally, the respect they were not getting at the beginning parts or before the season to now, a team that needs to be at home to have a great chance to beat some of the best teams in the league. Like, they're going to be preaching the same thing we were as far as home field advantage, the playoffs run through Chicago.
Yeah.
That is their hope. But there's a lot of things that it's mirroring images to last season for the Eagles.
Yeah.
So they're a really fun team to watch, but I'm still a hater of that quarterback.
Foolish Demon says, see, this is why me and Foolish Demon, we're on the same level. He says, Money Mitch Truthbisky. Mitch was my guy.
Notice how he says was.
I think that he was saying he was always
No,
his guy.
I know.
Don't take it away from us. I'm with you, Foolish. No, I mean, coming into the season, I mean, clearly we talked about it. We figured the Packers would be much better than they were this season.
Yeah.
We definitely thought Minnesota was going to be much better than they are this season. I did say don't sleep on the Bears.
No, you did.
I felt like that they did enough. They put enough weapons around him and that defense, and that was before they got Khalil Mack.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
So, I mean, that to me just turned that defense into elite. I mean, they were already a really good defense, but that turned them up to the next level, and that also compensated for whatever shortcomings may have come from the quarterback position with that offense by keeping them in the game even more so with the defense. But I mean, Mitchell, I looked at this season as an opportunity for Mitchell Trubisky to come in and have the kind of year that Jared Goff had last year. Put weapons around him, put in some sort of a system that can accentuate his strengths and put him in the best position to succeed. And they managed to do that this year. And I agree with you on a lot of the parallels. I didn't even think of it that way, but you're absolutely right. There is a lot of parallels even to this point in the year to where if they can just get home field advantage, that could take them deep into the playoffs. Absolutely, I agree with that. Seattle was a surprise to me. I don't think I picked Seattle to win more than 6 games maybe.
Same.
Russell Wilson in the running game.
And slept a little bit on Miami, but I did say if Tannehill is healthy, it's not the same reason I picked, but I did say if Tannehill is healthy, I felt like they could make a little bit of noise in the division. I didn't realize how good and how young and good their defense is. And I think that they're going to be very good going forward.
Foolish Demon chimes in. He agrees with us. He says, I've been saying that. Trade up to draft a quarterback. People question. Sign a Kansas City offensive coordinator. Got him weapons like Alshon for us. They got him Allen Robinson. Build up the defensive line. The similarities are there. Bears are the Eagles Midwest. Taylor Gabriel is their Torrey Smith.
And then I said
exactly.
And, oh, by the way,
Anthony
they
Miller.
have Trey Burton on that team now, too.
Yeah. Anthony Miller is their Nelson Aguilar.
And they have
Their slot guy.
Tariq Cohen on that team.
Big Cohen.
So they're a very well-built offense. They really are. And that defense it's scary. And then the playoff time hits, especially if they're playing at home, I don't want to go to Chicago. I think that's a scary place to have to go. So a lot of surprises this season.
They're a prime example of what a difference a good scheme can do, because I don't think any of us would argue that Mitch Trubisky, even though Mitchell Trubisky, even though
I'm only allowed to call him that. You're
sorry.
not on that level.
Mitchell Trubisky, even though like he's playing well for that team,
He is.
like he's not like an outstanding passer. Like
No.
he's a dual threat. He's a great runner, and he makes some throws here and there when he needs to. But in terms of passing, like he's not like a lethal pocket passer. But they're successful because that scheme that Matt Nagy has in there and that system, it works. It puts the players in prime position to succeed.
Yep.
And because of that, they're maximizing their offensive potential. Whereas other schemes like ours or the Packers with McCarthy, that just never was the case. And I think people don't realize that sometimes. Guys like Harlem Cowboy and other guys who just comment and just think it's all about the QB. No, like look at Mitchell Trubisky. Is he good? No, but the Bears are winning. Why? Because of the system.
So should Matt Nagy get consideration for Coach of the Year this
100%.
Yeah, he should be in the talk. I mean, he's not going to get it, but he should definitely be in the talk.
Him and Pete Carroll should be up there.
Pete Carroll for sure. I agree with that. Would you put Andy in that conversation with what you've seen with the quarterback change and Pat Mahomes and
Definitely.
what Pat
Yeah.
Mahomes has been
Andy.
able to do?
Here's a name.
And despite losing Kareem Hunt now to this,
He's
they still are
won.
coming out and they're a formidable offense.
Here's a name out of left field, a little bit that might surprise people, and he's not going to win it, but I believe he should be in the conversation. Is Sean McDermott? With that lack of offensive talent that they have, and it's a lack of offensive talent, but the way that defense comes out and plays and gives that team a chance to win, and hell, they were one who's the guy that played Derek Anderson interception away from
Barkley. Oh, I know what you're saying. I know what
against the
you're saying.
Patriots.
Yeah.
To and being in that game, they beat the Jaguars earlier in the season when the Jaguars were playing well. Was it the Jaguars?
I believe so.
Yeah, the Jaguars. They beat the Vikings. Like
Blitzed them.
they are a very well coached team on the defensive side of the ball. They are like one of the best defenses in the league, and the fact that they've managed to win the amount of games that they've won with how bad their offense is, that's like literally their offense right now is Josh Allen, go run. That is their offense. And then make like a big throw every once in a while down the field. But that's it. They're just using Allen as a runner, and they're winning some games. They're being competitive. I think Sean McDermott should be in the conversation.
I know another head coach that won't win it, but I think if they make the playoffs, should be in the conversation is Adam Gase. I think with the injuries they had early to that young defense, without having your quote-unquote franchise quarterback for a good portion of the year from injuries, they've still managed to play tough in just about every game this year. Not every game, but most of them, and pull out some big wins. I think there should be a vote or two thrown in to Adam Gase. I think he's going to be a head coach to look out for going forward.
I'll throw another name in there, and I'm not a big fan of this guy, but what about Bill O'Brien? 9 straight victories, first time they've done that.
Yeah, listen.
They started 0-3, then went to 9 straight.
There's been a lot of really good jobs by head coaches this year.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot of guys thrown into the conversation. I think the first two we threw out are probably the lead candidates that I would say for Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
But, yeah, a lot of good jobs by guys this year, for sure.
Harlem Cowboy did ask a question.
That's a great question.
Do you guys think Mitch is better than Dak? I'll say no.
I'm going to say right now, no.
No. Dak is, to me, without a doubt, Dak is better than Mitch.
They're literally the same person to me.
So now, okay.
I'm going to say now, no. But I think that Mitchell Trubisky has a higher upside.
And when I say that, I mean that there's somebody in the whole quarterback rankings, 1 to 32, there's somebody that could be around 10 at their best. At worst, they can be one of the worst in the league, but their comfort spot is anywhere from 15 to 20 in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's a fair assessment.
fine.
Sure.
I mean, they're all lumped into that category of runners who can throw. They are them at the position. They are runners who can throw.
Foolish Demon says he does think he's better. He said he makes better throws in coverage and has really good ball placement.
I disagree. I've seen Mitch miss wide open reads and be really, really bad at with his accuracy.
Yeah.
So I think that Dak is what he is, but he has proven to make clutch throws at times. I will say that he can, when the time gets going, he can make some situational throws where he needs to make them, and that's for a person with that has his limited ability. Having that kind of attribute is what you need, because when you have if your team is structured like they are, where they have a great defense, all you need is for your quarterback to make a throw here and there in certain situations for you to come out on top, and that's what's happened for the Cowboys the past few weeks. So Dak, I would definitely take Dak over Mitch.
What do you got for no huddle, buddy?
Honestly, my no huddle was the MVP talk with Patrick Mahomes. So
Yeah, Mitch Trubisky, MVP talk, baby.
Get it in my
Now
head.
we're talking.
But
Now
Patrick
we're
Mahomes,
talking.
So that was mine already. So I already said it.
You only bought one this week?
I only brought one. There's really not much to talk about.
Unprepared we're coming to the table. Well, first thing how about let's talk Jimmy Butler.
Let's talk Jimmy Butler.
Looks like he strained his groin, I'm supposing, last night.
Structural came back negative.
Yeah, so that's huge because you're probably talking
God.
about only missing a handful of games, maybe. Huge.
He's doubtful tomorrow, but apparently there's a good feeling that he actually could play limited minutes tomorrow, which is very surprising. It's very
That is
surprising.
very surprising.
I don't buy it, though.
I
don't buy it for a second.
doing it.
I mean, I wouldn't. Like, might as well just sit him. I wouldn't play him.
They might shut him down for the entire year, knowing them.
Yeah.
No,
True.
please, don't put that in my head. Please don't put that in my
They've
head.
put it in my head the last 6
I
seasons.
know. I just don't remind me. I wasn't thinking about it.
You have a bad foot? Okay. See you in 3 years. I mean, that's just what they do to me.
Korkmaz stepped up last night, though.
He's a good player.
Played very, very well. Is it shocking that they didn't decline his option? It still shocks me that they declined his option for next year.
It's not shocking because his defense, in their opinion, was so bad the first year. Right now, and I love his attitude, he's playing pissed off.
Yeah.
And I love that about him.
Yeah, it kind of shocks me. But let's dive into it. Let's roll into the Sixers talk real quick. What is your opinion of the Joel Embiid is upset since Jimmy Butler's here of his role with the team?
Wait, I didn't see this. Was this a report?
How could you not see this? This was everywhere.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I wasn't really reading on. Okay. I think I might have seen someone commenting on like on Facebook, but I didn't. With the Eagles, doing what they did.
No, it's understandable.
I've been trying to lay off of social media the past 3 days, but remind me what the whole report was.
So Embiid feels like he is not utilized properly, that he should be playing more with his back to the basket, but they have him playing up
top.
playing up the perimeter. I think we had a pretty candid debate because then it was the question of, is he saying since Jimmy Butler, Keith Pompey, I think it was.
Yeah, Keith got out of hand.
He made it twisted depending on how you
That's
want to
what
say.
it was.
It was a
That's what the
clickbaity article title.
Here's my thing. I'm going to give my opinion on this.
Yes.
I hate clickbait. I hate when words are twisted to fit a narrative. That being said, and JoJo shouldn't be voicing any displeasure out in the open like that. That should be something that if you have an issue with the way you're utilized, you should speak to your head coach. And as much as we love all the social media stuff and we love how kind of, open he is when he talks to people, this is what you open yourself up to. Now, he's been very smart for the most part about what he's decided to put out there. This is really the first time where really we've seen it where it's something that really shouldn't have been out there. It's something you should address with your head coach.
Yeah, I get it.
So my thing is it irresponsible reporting? I think it is. But when you constantly put everything out there, this is what you open yourself up to. And I also look at it where I'm looking at JoJo, and he's had some rough games as of late. And to me, it's a guy who's frustrated with himself, and he's trying to find an excuse because since JoJo's been in the league, he's played at the top of the perimeter. That's been – and I never seen him pass up a three-pointer he didn't like. So in this instance, yeah, irresponsible reporting. I don't think it had anything to do with Jimmy Butler. It's just a narrative because it's the sexy thing to talk about because Jimmy just got here. But at the same time, JoJo, let's not start pointing fingers. Take a look in the mirror. That's the style of play you've played since you came in. You have a problem with it, talk to your head coach. Don't go out there and sit in front of the media and sit there and talk about how you don't think your coach is using you right. It's one thing if you have that conversation and then it's a constant thing that continues to happen. But there's been no change in the way he's been utilized since he's come into the league. And that's the problem for me, is that, to me, it's just a guy who's looking to point the blame at somebody else. And he's not usually a guy that doesn't take accountability for himself, but that's how it came off to me. And then in turn, you feed the media something that they can run with.
Yeah, I was about to ask because, like, from what I remember, like, I agree with you. From all accounts, from whenever I watch Sixers game, he plays at the top. He gets the ball at the top of the key a lot, and he gets that pass, and he's at right at the top of the key, and I would always yell because I'd be like, why you keep pump faking that damn 3-pointer, like, as a joke, but. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why he had him voicing it. But at the same time, I think that is the double-edged sword of JoJo, because he talks and we love it, like you said. I think he's just that type of player. He's going to voice it. I honestly don't think he's going to change. And I think that it's just something we're going to have to accept when it comes to that. I'd rather, and I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying that I would never use that as a pass for bad reporting.
I just hope that this is a learning lesson that, like, all right, listen, if I put something out there, I got to make sure I know what I'm putting out there, because I think my conversation when I was going back and forth with Tom and with A2D was, well, we want him. This is what we love about him. We always want him to be this way. No, this is not what I love about him. I love when he's fun, JoJo, and he's out there. And yeah, I do appreciate honesty, but I don't need to know that you have an issue with your head coach. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want that. I've never seen JoJo do this, so I don't know that I love this, and I don't love what I've seen of it. And that was my thing, was you expose yourself to so much when you put everything out there. We talk about it all the time. Like, you scroll on your Facebook feed and look at all the stuff that people put out on social media that, like, really don't need to be there. And you know what? You then cast your own opinion. You allow people to cast their own opinions by putting everything out there and passing their own judgments. And unfortunately, I think this is really the first time that we've seen this kind of backfire. And so I would hope it's a learning lesson of, all right, next time I'll keep it in-house.
I'll preface this by saying, similar to what you guys were saying, that there's no questioning how great of a player he is, how funny he is to watch, even how funny he is to follow. It's
how
just
great
a
of a person he is. He's a great guy.
Yeah. So with all that being said, I've always thought that Joel lacked an extreme case of self-awareness. I thought that he never really had that, which in most cases is fine because he had the game to back it up.
Agreed.
So that's fine. He can go and poke fun at Drummond or Draymond or whoever. And it was fine because he could back it up. He could have very well have previously gone to Brett Brown and voiced his opinions, and he didn't see any change. But Joel Embiid's a great player. He's a top 5 player in the league, in my opinion. He's going to be a serious contender for the MVP at the end of the season. But Joel needs to understand something. He's never been on the team or any team where they've signed somebody like Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is a veteran in this league, and he has done so much. He's played so well for years. He needs to adapt and realize that when you add any player, let alone a player of that caliber, there's going to be adjustments. That happens for every team in every sport. Mm-hmm. There's going to be growing periods. It's completely different. But do we all remember how long it took the Miami Heat, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, Chris Bosh team to start clicking?
Yeah.
It took a minute.
It took a little bit.
This team, correct me if I'm wrong, but they only have 2 losses since Jimmy Butler has played here.
Yep.
They have been phenomenal. Jimmy Butler has been the closer that, in all respect to Joel, he wasn't in Boston. Mm-hmm. When we played against Boston in the playoffs, guess who wasn't a closer? Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
And I love Joel, and I understand he's still growing, so I'm not going to take that against him in his first year, his first playoffs. But damn it, Joel, the entire league, the entire world has this team under a microscope because of what happened in Minnesota with Jimmy Butler. You cannot start doing this. This team is too good. It has too much potential. The sky is the limit for this team.
Yeah. And listen, I mean, if you're averaging 28 points and however many rebounds and your game average goes down to 22 or 23 points, sometimes you make those kind of concessions in order – well, not sometimes. You make those kind of concessions If that's going to make your team a more effective scoring team and you have to sacrifice a few points, sacrifice your 5 points so the other guy can score 20, I think I'll do that.
And I've noticed this as well.
I think I'll do that.
Joel's criticism of the layout of the offense, when it pertains to him, is justified. Absolutely. Especially given as how good he was playing. I mean, he was playing historic level before Jimmy Butler. So I get it that, oh, my God. Like, I understand what Joel's saying. He's saying, guys, I was playing so good, so well. Then you went and got a player, and everything switched, and I'm not the guy. Like, I get it. I understand it completely. But I've always said one thing about three-point shooting. You don't complain about three-point shooting until it stops going in.
Mm-hmm.
We have to also recognize that Joel Embiid's three-point shooting, while he's not a three-point shooter, in quotes, he hasn't been making much.
Mm-mm. Nope.
So I guarantee you if he was making those, he's not complaining.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
I see both sides of it. I just hope that we just move on from this because now the national media, Cowherd says earlier, oh, the Sixers are already dysfunctional. That's BS, but we don't want that storyline going around to the fans and to the other teams that aren't educated with the subject.
Mm-hmm.
Agree with that.
No, I agree.
Baseball, Phillies signed Andrew McCutchen today. This is where Chuck sits back and just listens to us talk.
Gotcha.
My
feet up on the
I'm
heater.
going to be in the minority, clearly, that I like the signing for the Phillies.
I do as well.
A lot of people don't understand the years and don't understand the money. Well, coming into this season, if you looked at a lot of projections for McCutchen, he was projected to get about 3 years, 42, 45, 47 million, something like that. So it's not that far off from what he was projected. And I understand that he is a guy who's slightly declining, and he's in his 30s now. But on the market these days, first of all, the Phillies have tons of money to spend. They didn't massively overspend for this guy. A couple million, $5 million more than what he was really expected to get in baseball with no cap is a few shillings here and there. It's not a big deal. But when you get a guy like an Andrew McCutchen, you are getting a guy who is a gamer. He is a former all-star player. He's a guy who is a leader. He's a quality human being. And for a team that really could have used a lot more leadership last year, I think this guy is the perfect fit for this team at this point in their development, in their growth. That's number one. Number two, the Phillies aren't done yet. I don't think they're landing Harper. I've been sticking with that. But I do think there's a high chance they end up with Machado. Jay Happ's another guy that I think that they'll end up landing. I think this also allows them to trade Odubel, who I do think does need to be traded, and he has Ryan said it to me earlier, a very team-friendly contract, which has a lot of value, particularly now if they're looking at opening up the opportunity of trading Sixto as well. Because what was the one you told me about? What was one of the rumors or potential guys who's on the market now? Chris Bryant.
Ah, yes.
So if you're looking at that, if you miss out on the Machado sweepstakes, Chris Bryant's an option out there for you. I mean, you could even, if Cesar Hernandez or whatever doesn't pan out, guess what? Maybe you can move Segura to second base, sign Machado, and trade for Chris Bryant. There's a lot of options there.
Here's the problem with the Hernandez point, and you're right. Common sense, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
The Phillies, I saw numerous reports the other day saying that, not that they're going to give him a pass, but they still have high hopes for Hernandez because he played the second half of the year with a reported broken foot, and they feel that it was a wash of a season. Which, fine. I mean, if you're playing on any injury, you're not going to be at 100%. But I know the ceiling of Cesar Hernandez. It's not high, ladies and gentlemen. It's not. So he's a good player. He's a fine player. But if you have an opportunity to upgrade from Hernandez, you do it.
Yeah.
And the problem I have with this Phillies organization at times is that they are stubborn with the wrong people.
I agree.
No, but I mean, I agree with the Chrome for the most part. With the McCutchen deal, I'm fine with it. I said on Tom's video, which if you guys on YouTube didn't see Tom's video, head over to our social medias. He gives a really interesting take on it. I said, just straight up, I said, if this deal does not lead to them being out on Harper, the deal is fine with me. I think a lot of people are kind of getting carried away with the whole money thing. And, like, we've talked, I think Tom has said this before, like, it's not our money, so I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
Yeah.
And in this stage of the game in sports, especially in baseball, you have to overpay sometimes. Right now, whether people want to recognize it or not, right at this moment, McCutchen is your best outfielder.
No,
He is. I
and
mean, that's just straight up.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that he fits the ballpark as far as if you're looking at a guy that's going to be able to have a bounce-back year, it's a great ballpark for him to hit in.
And finally,
And not a lot of room for him to have to run and cover ground in the outfield either.
Chrome, you and I talked, when we got here, and I flat out said to you, I said, hey, Chrome, what does McCutchen never do?
Get hurt.
He plays games consistently. That's why I get frustrated and actually worried when I hear Michael Brantley's name, because guess what he doesn't do? Play consistently.
Never stays on the field.
So McCutchen is not going to be your big market signing, so anybody who thinks that, just relax, everything's going to be fine. The Phillies are going to find a way, either if it's free agency with obviously Harper or Machado, or if it's trade. And I said it 2 weeks ago, I said it last week, I'll say it again. Don't be surprised if Giancarlo Stanton is here, if you can't get Harper. There's options out there. We have stupid money, like the owner said, and we have stupid flexibility with that 99% of our roster, both minor leagues and major leagues, is expendable.
Mm-hmm.
Take advantage now while the market is here.
Foolish Demon says, Cards get Goldschmidt, best move all year. Just lock up Kimbrel and playoffs, baby. Whether he's talking about Cardinals or Phillies for Kimbrel, I don't go after Kimbrel because Kimbrel won 6 years.
Yeah,
At this point, if he was talking 4 years, I would go. I'd be all in on Kimbrel. And I think 4 years is a year too many. But I'm not giving Kimbrel 6 years. Bryce Blackwell says, great move. Andrew McCutchen's a beast. He says, yo, A2D Radio. What's up, Bryce?
What's up, Bryce?
He says, Manny will be here. Harper, I don't know. I don't think you're getting Harper. Sixto trade coming. Chris Bryant would be nice. Foolish Steven says, Jesus, too. Phillies are getting Jesus. Didn't y'all do this with LeBron and Kawhi?
Do what?
And Bryce says, yeah, too stubborn. Just saying that we're going to get everybody.
Yeah,
he's not lying.
Right.
He ain't lying.
Oh,
Listen, I definitely think that there's a lot of tread with Machado. I don't think that they're going to end up with Harper. I think we talked extensively about Harper.
Yeah.
Couple of possibilities. I could see the Phillies trading for Stanton, Giancarlo Stanton.
Welcome.
And that's an opportunity where you could trade Odubel, you could trade Sixto, because I'll tell you what, and Eflin, because the Yankees need pitching and they love pitching. They can never have enough pitching. They would be a good trade partner. I could see the Phillies getting Stanton instead and utilizing those guys. And then I think Harper wants to stay in the National League. If he goes to the American League, it's going to be the Yankees. Outside of that, I'm looking at the Dodgers as a possibility. I don't think Chicago is a possibility. I still say no matter what they tell you, the teams that they tell you are not in on them are usually in on them. I think that the Cardinals are an outside shot to go to snag Harper. They got a ton of money to spend.
It's a great fit. It
would be a good fit, absolutely. And what an offseason if you would add Harper and Goldschmidt. Jesus Christ.
I'd respect that.
Good Lord. What were some of the other teams that we threw out there, Ryan?
Well, I brought up that
I don't think he's going back to Washington now. I kind of thought
No.
I did, but after this weekend, I'm out on Washington.
the team that I was talking about for weeks that I thought was kind of just laying in the weeds, kind of just a team that was outside looking in. I'm going to decline that now. I've been looking into local beat writers. Apparently the White Sox are moving away, that they feel that kind of what we feared the Phillies would be, that, we have a few more years. This is not the only offseason, so
Yeah.
they're kind of looking not just this is the offseason, they're kind of moving forward. So it makes me think, could they be going after Arenado in a couple of years or next year?
Well, I mean, we talked about it.
Yeah.
To me, Machado makes no sense for the Yankees. And an interesting take that I told you I'd read earlier is Yankees pass on Harper and they pass on Machado and save that money next year and back up the Brinks truck for Arenado, because I think me and you agree, of all of them, outside of Mike Trout, to me, Nolan Arenado is the second best player in baseball.
I love him on this team. I love him. I don't
So
think we're going to get him.
I think anybody next year backs up the Brinks truck to get Nolan Arenado.
I'll
I do not think he will be back in Colorado. He might be moved by the deadline this year.
I'll ask you this now because I think before you guys are on the air next, I think one, if not both, Bryce Harper and Machado will be signed.
I believe Harper will be. Machado, I think, could take another week and a half or so because apparently his thing is not just talking at the winter meetings. He wants to go and do the tour in each city.
Yeah, he's coming to Philly. Yeah.
And so I think that it's possible he's still there. I think Harper's off by the weekend.
So give me your top 2 teams for Harper and Machado as far as most likely.
Machado, I think it's Phillies, and
You can give 3, actually. Give me 3.
I think for Machado, I'm thinking Phillies, Dodgers, and Yankees. If I'm talking Harper, I'm thinking Dodgers, Cardinals, and I'm going to go outside the box. I never count out the Giants. I still feel like the Giants, although they got a lot of payroll, there's been talk they might move Longoria. And if they can find a partner to take Longoria's contract, that's going to open up some money for them. I think that the Giants could be an outside opportunity for him.
Couple teams I have for Bryce Harper, Phillies, Yankees, Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
Machado, Phillies, Yankees, Giants. Because on top of your thing with Harper, the Giants never, ever, in any year, don't have a big-time star that's a batter.
Yeah.
They always have one. And if they go and they're going to try and trade away, obviously, the pitcher, why am I blanking on his name?
Bumgarner.
Bumgarner.
And that's another name. Listen, if they can move Bumgarner and
they're trying to do.
Longoria, that's going to open up a lot of money for them. And Machado would make sense because if they do have restrictions on their payroll, he's gonna be cheaper than Harper is because he ran his mouth.
Absolutely.
He hurt his own value. So, last thing before we go off, Foolish Demon asks, is Chuck's legit snoring?
What? No, I'm not even sleeping.
I don't know. I did hear that noise. I didn't know what it was.
I don't know what it was.
It might have been the cord.
Maybe. It
Oh,
might
yeah.
have been. I was moving the cord
Oh,
around.
okay.
So,
I did look. I'm like, John.
I'm awake. Don't worry.
last thing I'm going to end on, I'm going to give my Phillies predictions.
Oh, yeah.
I think that the Phillies are going to end up, listen, if they Phillies end up with an offseason where they get McCutchen, Machado, Jay Happ or Dallas Keuchel, because I think Keuchel's a possible landing spot here. They already traded for Segura, and they unloaded the Santana contract, and I like the reliever that they got from the Angels, Alvarez. That's a hell of an offseason. That is a hell of a lot better team you're going into next season with.
Yep.
So I'm telling you, keep an eye. I think that there's going to be a lot of things to talk about next week on No Huddle, and Chuck's can snore while we're doing that. But
I'll
guys,
practice my snore game.
listen, guys, great show. I'll be heading out to LA for the Rams game this
Have
week.
fun.
Yeah, enjoy.
Godspeed.
So I hope it's fun. Whether
Hopefully.
I'm getting an Eagles win or my fantasy team is going absolute ape shit.
Get one or the other.
One or the other would make me happy. But Chuck's great show today. Ryan, thank you for producing. Again, thank you to our sponsors, Gibson Mayer, Specialized Physical Therapy, and Scanzano Sports. And again, just as Ryan mentioned, if you're not in Real Talk, get in there. We drop a lot of really good content in there. And a lot of the stuff that we kind of bring up, we like to react to on the show.
Definitely.
But until tomorrow night when you have the fix and you have AM and the PM, guys, fly Eagles fly. Let's go. We'll see you next week.